Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Pulse Report. Today, we're going to explore one of the most fascinating parts of the human body, our nervous system. We're your hosts, Maaliyah
and Maryam. We hope you enjoy this episode as much as we do, and we're super excited to explore how this incredible system keeps all of us alive.
Let's dive in.
So, to start with, what exactly is the nervous system?
Great question. Think of the nervous system as the body's personal command center. It includes the brain, spinal cord, and all the nerves branching out through your body.
Wow, that's a pretty big deal. So, what does this command center actually control?
Technically speaking, it controls pretty much everything. The nervous system sends messages back and forth between your brain and different parts of your body. These signals are responsible for thoughts, learning, balance, coordination, your senses, your heartbeat, and even how you respond to stress.
That's a mouthful. You mentioned signals earlier. How do they actually travel?
Great question. Signals typically travel through specialized cells called neurons. They're the messengers of the nervous system. These signals are then transmitted between the brain, skin, organs, glands, and muscles. This makes sure your body is always informed about what's going on.
Right. Neurons let you move your limbs, feel pain, and sense your environment. Basically anything that involves taking in information or reacting to it. But before we get into the nuances and details, let's step back for a moment to grasp the bigger picture.
You may recall from our previous episode that we covered the cellular blueprint. Cells make up specialized tissues, which make up organ systems. Now, let us explain how this ties into the body's nervous responses.
It all starts with two initial types of cells. First is a specialized nerve cell, a neuron. Second is the glia. Glial cells provide support, protection, and replenish neurons. They're commonly known as the glue of the nervous system. They aren't neurons themselves, but are essential in ensuring neurons carry out their functions successfully. Now, going back to neurons. The next step in the cellular blueprint is multiple neurons binding together to form nervous tissue. This is the main tissue in the nervous system, characterized by stimulation of sensory input, integration, and output. This is then followed by the organ component of the cellular blueprint. Nervous tissue itself is not an organ. However, two particular organs, the brain and the spinal cord, work together to generate nerve function. Together, with bundles of nerves, these components form the overarching nervous system, which is the organ system we're discussing today.
And to think, this entirely complex body system is based on tiny, microscopic neurons and glia.
It seems impossible, but really, it all comes down to how a neuron's structured.
A neuron has three main components. First is a cell body, otherwise known as a soma. The soma contains all of the neuron's organelles and its nucleus. The cell body is connected to the two other components of the neuron, the axon and the dendrites. The axon is what transmits the initial electrical impulse from the soma down to its axon terminal.
From there, chemical signals called neurotransmitters are released into the synapse, which is the gap between two nerve cells. Think of neurotransmitters like tiny text messages, hopping from neuron to neuron. In this way, the axons and the neurotransmitters allow the signal to continue to be passed on from cell to cell until it reaches its intended target.
Now finally, dendrites are branched extensions of the nervous cell that receive impulses from other cells at the synapse. In this way, the whole process comes full circle.
That's a really detailed process. So, are all neurons the same?
Nope. We've got three main types.
Those are motor neurons, sensory neurons, and interneurons. Motor neurons carry signals from the brain and spinal cord to the muscles. Things like moving, breathing, swallowing, and speaking. Sensory neurons take information from your senses and send it to your brain. Interneurons connect the motor and sensory neurons, helping you learn, think, remember, and react. All three components play a massive role in how the body acts and reacts.
The nervous system needs all three of them for you to carry out the most basic of functions. Speaking of which, did you know the nervous system actually has two main parts?
Really? What are they?
They're the central nervous system, otherwise known as CNS, and the peripheral nervous system, the PNS.
The CNS is made up of the brain and spinal cord, and the PNS is all the nerves branching out from the spinal cord to the rest of your body.
The PNS also has two main parts.
Right. There's the somatic nervous system, which helps you control voluntary movements,
and the autonomic nervous system, which handles the things your body does without you thinking about them. Heart rate, digestion, breathing patterns, and more. The autonomic nervous system also has two separate modes, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems.
The sympathetic system gets your body ready for action, like increasing your heartbeat when you're scared or stressed. You've likely heard of the fight or flight response. This response is a key component of the sympathetic system. The system is activated by stress or a sense of danger.
And the parasympathetic system calms you down afterward, slowing your heartbeat and helping you digest food, rest, and digest. It acts as a counter to the sympathetic system's heightened response. Both systems work together to keep the body as close to homeostasis as possible.
That's so cool. Another interesting fact about the nervous system comes down to a specific thing our bodies do. You may have noticed that sometimes you react to objects or stimuli before you even realize it. Those signals are super fast, and those are called reflexes. For example, if you touch a hot stove, your hand pulls back immediately thanks to a reflex arc. They're essentially built-in protection to keep your body safe.
A reflex arc is a neural pathway controlling reflex action. It allows the body to react to a neural stimulus without constantly thinking, because it actually skips over the brain in order to get a faster response.
Now, you might be wondering how that works. How can the body transmit signals all while skipping over the brain? This all comes down to the basic structure of a reflex arc. A reflex arc is made up of a receptor, which detects the stimulus.
A sensory neuron then conveys that information from a receptor to the CNS, the central nervous system. A relay neuron in an interneuron contained in the CNS passes the impulse to the motor neuron. Finally, the motor neuron transmits the signal to the CNS to the effector, which is a muscle or gland responsible for the action.
So your body's basically juggling a ton of automatic and intentional actions at the same time? That's impressive.
It really is. Speaking of impressive, it's now time to finish off with our Myth of the Week bonus. Here's a big one. You may have come across the saying that we only use 10% of our brains.
This is a pretty common misconception, but in reality, it's totally inaccurate.
Absolutely. We use almost every part of our brain, just not all at once. Different regions activate for different tasks, like studying, moving, or even sleeping.
And here's another one. Damaged nerves never grow back. While severe damage can be permanent, your peripheral nerves, which are part of your PNS, can actually regenerate under the right conditions.
The nervous system is way more active, complex, and adaptable than people think. Even when you're resting, your brain is hard at work, processing memories, regulating your heartbeat, and just keeping you alive.
And that's all we've got for today. Thanks for tuning into the Pulse Report. We really hope you learned something new about this incredible system that integrates all of your body functions together so seamlessly. Have a great day!